A video is going viral of a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor, Bernard Marx, calling out Tom Homan, who right now is Trump's border czar, is known for his incomprehensible mumble sessions where he says a bunch of stuff no one can understand. And at the time of this video, he was the acting ICE director. So I'll play this for you. I think you can sort of assume why this video is now going viral, and it's back from 2017 during Trump's first administration, but I think more relevant than ever now. Before playing it for you, here's The Independent reporting a survivor of the Holocaust has delivered a stinging rebuke to Donald Trump's top immigration enforcer and said history is not on your side. I'll give my take on this after playing the clip for you. If you appreciate the show, by the way, please do click the subscribe button. Many of even our loyal viewers aren't subscribed. Crazy world.
I was hauled up by the Nazis. And for no other reason, I was picked up and separated from my family, who was exterminated in Auschwitz. And I am a survivor of Auschwitz and Dachau. I spent 5.5 years in concentration camp for one season and one reason only. Because we picked on people, and you as the sheriff, who we elected as sheriff of this county. We did not elect you as sheriff of Washington, D.C. Yeah. It's about time you serve the people here. Yeah. And when this gentleman stands up there and he says he doesn't go after any people, he should read today's beat. Because in today's beat, the Supreme Court Justice of State of California objected to ICE coming in and taking people away from the courts. Don't tell me that this is a lie. Yeah. You stand up here, Mr. Jones, don't forget, history is not on your side.
So some pretty powerful video. Again, that's Bernard Marx, and a brave thing to do. That's back in 2017, and now it's going viral. Why? Well, what we're seeing is, and I just want to, again, because you know this if you're a regular viewer, but some new viewers may not know. Obviously, what's being argued is not the immigration laws shouldn't be enforced whenever lawful deportations happen. Okay, that happens. It's a part of the process. What we're seeing, though, is something different, which is under the excuse of immigration enforcement. Instead, what's happening is really for some sick dystopian photo ops, some that literally there was legal analysis saying may have violated the Geneva Convention. There's PR stunts that are so urgent in their nature and hasty and disregarding of basic right that they're punishing the innocent for their accused crimes against perceived guilty people. And so we know how dangerous that gets. One of the reasons we have the system that we have is so that we don't see the worst possible outcome of punishing and destroying the lives of innocent people. And in a couple of the examples we've already seen this soon into the administration, obviously you have in the news right now Abrego Garcia. And then also it's been heartbreaking to see completely dropped out of the news Andrew, which we just know his first name, but the makeup artist who, from all the evidence we have, entered the United States lawfully, had legal status, was just a productive member of society, and still is now in an El Salvadoran prison camp because they wanted a photo op that bad, because they cared about our due process, so that, yes, we absolutely remove public safety threats, of course, and we absolutely enforce immigration law, but we respect people's rights in that process so that these dystopian outcomes for people who absolutely don't deserve this treatment don't happen. But they threw that out because they were so hungry and salivating for this. And Bernard Marx there, from experience, is saying this is a story that will be told that won't be very gray. It's going to be very black and white. That there is a wrong side of history being told right now. Now, if you don't know Tom Homan, here's Tom Homan.
So how do you determine, or how do your people in the field determine that somebody is a gang member?
Look, there's various methods. No, I've noticed in the media this week, a lot of them don't have criminal histories. Well, a lot of gang members don't have criminal histories, just like a lot of terrorists in this world.
So a lot of that, you just cannot even understand the words that are coming out of his mouth.
They're not in any terrorist database, right? We only know the information what's in databases based on, for instance, most terrorists we arrest that are identified by the U.S. government are later identified through a Title III investigation or through an undercover operation. They're not in any terrorist screening database. We know that. A lot of gang members, I started as a cop in 1984. Many gang members don't have a criminal history. So we have a count on social media. We have a count on surveillance techniques. We have a count on...
Yeah, so he says a lot of stuff. There's some that you can understand. And yeah, the problem is, Tom, that apparently you didn't rely on those sorts of things, or you did wrongfully. Like, there's a lot of this is difficult to know for sure because of how not transparent they're being. We keep asking, okay, if you have the evidence of the things you're saying, just present it somewhere. Maybe, the courts that are telling you to return Abrego Garcia, and you're not responding to that. But the reason is they obviously don't have the evidence. And so from what we can tell, it looked like law enforcement just looked at some tattoos and said, I don't know, that kind of looks like something. And remember, to further the point of Bernard, they're now talking about sending Americans to the El Salvadoran prison camp. Americans with their current track record of identifying who's guilty and who's innocent, you could see even more dystopian, draconian, and disastrous outcomes.
But how do you, what we've heard from lawyers representing some of these people is that they deny that they're members of this gang, or either, Tren de Aragua or MS-13. Do they get a chance to prove that before you take them out of the country and put them in to a notorious prison in a country that they're not even from? Do they have any due process at all?
Look, due process. Where was Lake and Ronnie's due process? Where were all the...
Yeah, and that's the part I wanted to show, because you'll hear that sort of response a lot, and it's really an exploitation of Lake and Riley's story. Someone who was murdered, and that was absolutely horrific. And the perpetrator, who was an undocumented immigrant, should and is being held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. And we should do everything to prevent that. And do you know what we need whenever something like that happens? Because she wasn't afforded due process, is due process to make sure that we punish the right person for that, obviously. Under their model, what they're currently doing as it pertains to deportations, they very well could have hastily punished the wrong person. And so we all want justice for anyone subjected to such vicious violence, which is why we have due process, so that we get justice and we don't just punish some random person like they're currently doing in other cases. Now, going forward, another, the warning of authoritarianism and fascism from the Holocaust survivor. It's a warning that we absolutely need to take seriously. It's not to say X or Y is going to happen here, but let's look at the characteristics of speech and actions in our leaders that we've seen the worst possible extent of how dangerous they can be, so that way over here we can call them out. And Trump, here is again perpetuating ideas that uphold another key tenet of that fascistic idea, which is justifying and allowing violence if it's on behalf of your ideology.
It's amazing when they don't give you the information. When they don't, you know they're not on the right. The pipe bomber is not a person on the right, it's a person on the left, okay? And when I watch some of those people in the Capitol, our people don't carry ropes on their side and this and that. Our people aren't scaling.
Are you going to get to the bottom of it? People
we're going to try. Yeah, we're going to try. And hey, look. The Unselect Committee of Political Thugs, these horrible people, Democrats and two of the worst Republicans in history.
Was the Fox host saying, are we going to get to the bottom of January 6th? Is that what she was asking? Because then he starts talking about the January 6th Select Committee. I mean, there's a lot of incoherence. Again, can they just, all right, you're bad, I get it. But can you be bad but explain your badness better? Because it's very incoherent. But what get to the bottom of what are you talking about? We got to the bottom of Trump lied about the election. Oh, wait, like he does here.
Everybody knows. Yeah. Now, the one good thing is that this term, I call it the third term, right? I just don't want the results of the second term. Yeah. But we won it 3 times, but I don't want the results because it was terrible. What they've done to the border, when you think of it, what they've done to this country with the wars, Russia, Ukraine would have never happened. October 7th in Israel would have never happened.
All right. And then he goes on to those unsubstantiated claims. And all throughout, I don't even want to play the rest of it, but she's just sort of like, yeah, I know you think the election was rigged. I don't know. Do you remember right when after the Fox huge settlement, they started correcting Trump in interviews? Well, there is no evidence that the election was stolen. And now they just don't. And Trump pardoned the January 6th attackers. We know what happened. There's no get to the bottom. We got to the bottom of it. And no, Trump was there. We searched, and we went, oh my gosh, hi. Yay, you did this. And he went, yes, I did. That's the story. But why do they question it? It is an obvious and chilling authoritarian tendency here to justify violence when it's for your cause. Needless, painful violence, then literally obstruct the process of or withhold justice for the people who perpetuated the violence, as Trump did with those pardons, and then to rewrite history about what the violence was. We've seen that story play out in history over and over. Then a Republican congressman here, again, the justification of violence, starts talking about how Josh Shapiro, who just was attacked, someone who wanted to beat him with some object, luckily didn't get his hands on Shapiro, Pennsylvania governor, a Democrat, but then set a part of his house ablaze, the arsonist. And this Republican congressman says, yeah, Josh Shapiro shouldn't talk so negatively about Trump. That really provokes violence.
Now, I just can't help, though, but say on the left, and but when you have a Tesla car bomb set outside a Trump hotel, and it blows up virtually, and there's no denouncing from the left.
There was, and did you find out who that guy was? He was, it's tragic, it's bad. I'm happy that something worse than it happened in terms of casualties. But he hated the Democrat. He was sending a message about the Democrats. That's why he did that. Did you not even read his manifesto? All right.
Left. Right. In fact, they're making jokes about it on comedy shows that only the left watches, for crying out loud, because it's not funny. And all it does is try to attack the president. So things like that.
You can't take. There's so Elon. We have legalized comedy, and then why are they making fun of the president? That's like the thing you do. Okay, that's the thing. When there's a president, that's what comedy shows make fun of. Listen, folks. That was when Biden's president, there's a lot of jokes about Biden. Seth Meyers, who I love, played the Biden stumbling up the stairs clip hundreds of times. It just prominent people like the president get made fun of.
And I'll also just add this. I got into a little controversy with Governor Shapiro because I stated that he makes comments where he said President Trump was an existential threat to democracy. And he recently stated, very falsely, that President Trump and the administration was withholding funding for food for hungry Pennsylvanians, keeping...
They're literally doing that, but okay.
Those that are hungry from accessing food. Complete falsehood, completely made up.
Yeah.
And when you say things like that, that creates hatred.
It does.
Right?
It does. No, you're right.
I mean, hatred. And where does hatred go?
The violence.
Right.
And we've got to stop this.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
What the hell? Josh Shapiro. Do you remember when the assassination attempt against Trump happened? And my response was, that's terrible. And then people said, hey, if the right is calling on and then we found out the shooter was a Republican, and he was looking for just any prominent politician, and it wasn't really an anti-Trump hatred that caused that. But okay, but the second one was more of an anti-Trump hatred. But the first one, then there was sort of I agree, maybe we could lower the tone, the rhetoric, but I mean, is Trump gonna tone down the rhetoric too? If we're talking about rhetoric, I love to. But is he gonna? And they said, "Oh, you're victim blaming." Blah, blah, blah. And here he says Josh Shapiro, I guess, got attacked because he attacks Trump. What? Very weird. Dan Muser, Representative Dan Muser. I'll leave it there. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to support the show, you can do it by clicking the join button below, and I'll talk to you in the next video.